for our second meeting. It is 6:49 p.m. Going to call the Town of Bay Harbor Islands quasi-judicial public hearing to order. Well, we already did the pledge. Roll call? I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Tricoche? Here. Councilmember Sauber?
Here.
Councilmember Reed? Here. Councilmember Fuller?
Here.
Vice Mayor Gruder? Here. Mayor Leonard?
Here.
All
Very good.
present.
Mr. Attorney?
Would anyone who's going to testify, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 1, please.
Item 1, public comment with respect to an application for a proposed 6-story building at the property located at 9551 East Bay Harbor Drive, lots 1 and 2 of Block 1. The application is being made for site plan approval of the Gateway property.
Okay. You want to start off? Mr. Amster? Good evening.
Good evening. Matthew Amster with the law firm of Burkhow, Riddell, Fernandez, and Larkin. Offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. Here today representing One King Concourse LLC, the applicant and owner of the subject property. With me today from ownership, Laura Tauber, Erwin Tauber, and Alex Tauber. Our project architects are Alex Drouet and Barbara Pedrozzoli. Unfortunately, Luis Revelta was unable to make it this evening, but he's left it in capable hands. Misha Adir is our landscape architect. Joaquin Vargas is our traffic expert. And my partner from the firm, Jeffrey Burkhow, is also here. This has site plan development plan modifications for the One King Concourse property. This is at 9551 East Bay Harbor Drive. It's on the east gateway of the town, just south of the hotel that's coming along very nicely on the north side of the gateway. You can see on the screen, this is renderings of the proposed revisions that we have for you this evening, taken from various angles. You can see, again, a signature building that will be at the entrance to the town. The rendering that was used for this doesn't actually take into account, you can see that the hotel is not quite there yet. See if I can move this along to the next slide. There are a number of approvals, such as the hotel, that are under construction and other projects nearby along the waterway that are of the same scale and massing as this project. And so, as you can see from this, along the top, along the waterfront, both north and south of King Concourse, you have a compatible series of, the fabric of the community, and this building will fit in there very nicely. The original project was approved many years ago. It is actually still valid, and we could move forward with that. However, as the owners have gone through putting together the permit drawings and also trying to attract tenants for this office building, they've done something very important, very helpful, and smart by listening to the market. And the market demands that they provide Class A, upscale, high-quality office space. And so with that in mind, they have put forward some revisions to make this a high-caliber office building, and that has also led to some significant design changes that are here before you. Most notably, some of the massing of the building that was along the waterfront on the north and south of the property has been moved towards East Bay Harbor, to the west part of the property. Then they've also added a number of energy-efficient details, which have helped actually with the design of the building, both simplifying and making this a more elegant building, as well as also making it, LEED and energy efficient. And then another change is that this building, which does have 2 levels of partially underground parking, is all 100% valet operated, and based on the uses, there is proposed a ground floor restaurant, and then all the upper floors are office. We've reorganized the way that the traffic circulation works at the property, so that basically all of the office employees will go internal into the parking levels to drop off and pick up. So that will all be off of the street and not even in the main driveway, and that leaves the driveway open for office visitors. And The project also has benefited through going through the Design Review Committee and the Planning and Zoning Board. We did get approval by the Planning and Zoning Board in January for these changes, and right now I want to turn it over to the architects to take you through the design of the project.
Wait, can you just answer a couple? You said there was 2 driveways before we begin, one for employees and one for pickup and drop off, is that correct?
Yes, there's...
And there's going to be a restaurant?
The owners are hopeful that they can have a ground floor restaurant, and that's what is presently proposed.
Okay.
It would be an evening-only restaurant. That's the way that, under town code requirements, that they can make that work, so it would be 6 p.m. and later. And basically, it incorporates a shared parking system where, you have your office tenant uses is during the day, and the restaurant would be in the evening.
I'd be interested in trying to get the restaurant open.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it would service a lot of the people within the building itself, I would think, especially during the day. It's an amenity that probably helps the office building itself. In addition, also, I think we want to make sure there is a restaurant downstairs. I'm sorry. So I think we want to make sure there is a restaurant. I understand there's one proposed, but we want to make sure that's ironclad, that it is a restaurant. That's one thing we're trying to really enforce right now, is that restaurants are opening up and down in King Concourse.
Well, that's what's in the plan, and they're looking to attract, a restaurant tenant for that space, just like they're making this an upscale office building to attract those good quality office tenants. So,
Can I ask, what would stand in the way of the daytime restaurant operation?
Parking.
the parking requirements are quite significant for restaurant space, and so the evening use essentially allows for the shared parking that they already have. They're providing parking that is over and above the minimum requirement for the office space, but I'm not quite sure of the actual numbers for the restaurant space, but they would probably need additional parking spaces beyond what they have in order to operate a lunchtime restaurant.
Question on that, sorry to interject. Do we still have the item up for tonight for the parking? Hold.
No, it's still there.
It's still there, okay.
But that's not for new construction.
Right,
That's for existing
No,
buildings.
that's for
It was
That's for
existing as of the
existing.
day we put it into effect. That has nothing to do with this.
Right. So if we want to have, a new restaurant that opens during the day under new constructions, which are not many, you need to, we as council need to think about that, because what they're saying to us basically is that financially, it doesn't behoove them to have a restaurant open during the day because of the financial impact, I'm assuming. I don't know.
And you're going to have a hard time finding a tenant in
That's
reality
gonna
that you're
open
only
up.
open 6 p.m. and later,
Yeah.
especially considering the rent that you're going to probably demand and probably be worthwhile to get in that side of a building. If you're Class A, you're going to demand the right rent.
So,
Okay, so I'm going to bring up the architects. The next slide, just so for a point of reference, this is the originally approved project, where it has the massing more towards the water, and Alex will take you through some other slides to show you the revised drawings before you today.
Hi, good evening. I'm Alex Torres with Revuelta Architecture, and I want to apologize again for Luis. He would like to be here, but he had a trip that he couldn't miss because his wife booked it a year ago. So Max pretty much went around the whole project. I just want to make a comparison of this is the approved massing as it was designed. What we did for the client when we reviewed the project was to study more like the flex setback situations. So if you see here, this is like one of the flex setbacks, this is another one of the flex setbacks, and this is another one of the flex setbacks. I marked them in red. So we noticed that for us it was important to create an element for the city since it was a gateway lot. So what we did was practically move the setbacks around without changing the actual massing that respects the setbacks of the building, creating a corner element that opens up the views towards the water in this area here, as you can see. And by doing this modification, we also create a corner of the gateway area, like a little bit of more symbolism. Then one of the other setbacks that was important for us to move was the one in the southeast corner, which is this one here, as you can see. We push it back 15 feet in order to the development next door to not clog up the views and not reduce the image of having all the maximum frontage in the building to create some breaks in the facade. So that was another thing that we added to it. Then for us was very important to be energy efficient. So the idea was to study the sun path during the summer and during the winter, with the highest sun in the summer and the lowest in the winter. For us, it was important to have these vertical elements to create some shading in the facade for the winter sun, because it's a lower sun, and for the summer sun, we would like to have those vertical elements. So the final product of the building setbacks and the massing was to create these horizontals that protect from the sun and these verticals here that you can see in this area, these elements. Originally, the approval had much more of them, but we decided to reduce the size as a recommendation from the planning and zoning board, and we made a design that they agreed with us that it was like an improvement for the building, and it will still keep
We're just going to
work.
interrupt you for one moment. Don't mean to be rude, but
Where,
take a look at something in the picture. We want to make sure what we're seeing here is what we've seen in the packet.
we're not seeing the same thing. I'm not seeing it.
It's towards the end.
No, but the turn of the
The
picture.
turn of the picture, where where you took and you moved it to the side?
These
Yeah.
Yeah.
we prepare only for the presentation, the pack that you have.
Okay, because I'm looking
It's
at,
because it's for us easier to explain the process, because what you have is the actual submittal that
Right.
is required. This is an extra
so
sheet.
let's stop for a second, because, so
Okay.
the what's red, is that solid? That's going to be a solid?
It's not solid, it's just a mass, it's glass, it's all glass.
So that's what I need to know. I need to know what it is, because the way that you're describing it, you're saying it's solid. Solid means, so
Okay.
it's all glass.
Okay,
Okay.
I can
That's what
explain
we-
again. So
But it's not a balcony.
It's not a balcony.
When you were saying solid, it was, all of a sudden, it was throwing us off. So it's glass.
Okay, so to recap, these red elements here are the building mass, which is glass. It's made out of glass.
So the whole building is all glass?
It's all glass.
Okay, good. So everybody from the side and everybody from anywhere, everybody's going to be able just to see glass. There is no, okay.
That's the same that we... This is the...
Right, that's what
Okay.
he just threw us off when he was saying solid, and he puts the picture up here that shows solid,
Okay.
it's not matching, but that's
Got
fine.
it.
That's better.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Because we call it massing.
That's more Tetris.
So what we did was to move these masses around, but it's the same building, we use the same flex setbacks, we just move them around to make a more elegant building.
Okay,
So
got it.
the final result of everything was to have all glass all around and open the views towards the water and create this gateway element. So the materials that we're going to use are aluminum for the horizontal elements and vertical. Glass, the glass is going to be like a silver bluish glass. It's an Arctic silver blue, and the paint is going to be stucco white, and the floor is shell reef. As part of the floor plan, what Matt was saying was we have the drop-off, the main drop-off where the valet is going to take the car, and the entrance driveway here that takes you down to the basement for the employees, for the stacking lanes, to create the least amount of traffic on the street so everybody goes into these levels. And the elevation shows the building with the landscape as per our plans. Our landscape mirrors the landscape of the property next door as part of the master plan of the city. So it's create a uniform entrance. And as you can see, all the building is glass. And that will be pretty much it.
All right.
Let me go back to the renderings. You can see better. Okay.
So I just want to quickly go through, there's code criteria for, gateway site plan approvals, and this meets all of the project criteria. The site plan development design complies with the minimum town standards. We're not requesting any variances. This will have a favorable effect on the economy of the town. That's going to, obviously, in the short term, have construction jobs, and then with the Class A office, there will be tenants needed for the building, as well as ongoing, full-time positions for ongoing building maintenance and operation. And of course, the tax base of the town will increase with the new building. This will not generate any excessive noise or traffic. Joaquin did a expert traffic study reviewed by your staff, and that showed, just as the original, that the few changes that we're making here, including with the improved traffic circulation, will not have any negative impact on the traffic circulation for the town. There's no undue burden on the public facilities. The infrastructure can all support this project. There won't be any overcrowding, and especially this is not a residential use project, so it varies from, has more daytime uses and not consistent with the further south residential projects. It is compatible, as we mentioned before, in scale and appearance, similar height to other projects existing, as well as including the hotel under construction and other approvals. And also the design has been simplified, as you can see in the renderings, to provide an elegant, beautiful building. Again, that will be a landmark for the entrance to the town, as well as to attract and be beneficial for the office tenants that it will have. And then this is a reasonable use for the property, right on Kane Concourse. This is the business corridors, very appropriate to have your office uses located here. And again, the Class A caliber will attract quality tenants to the town. So what we have is, with these revisions, a signature project that will serve as an architectural statement for the east entrance to the town's gateway, to also work in tandem with the new hotel under construction. This will bring many employment opportunities and increase the tax base. And importantly, with the Taubers' years of experience with listening to the market, they will be satisfying the market demand with the tenants that they'll be bringing here. And we comply with all of the gateway and town regulations and site plan approval criteria. With that, we respectfully request your approval. The entire team is here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, let me hit a few things, actually, for me. I think the design is very nice. I like the building. I like the design. I think it's necessary on that corner. I think it's a good project. However, I've got a couple questions. Where are you just planning on staging the equipment? That's one of my first questions. Have you guys thought about that at all? Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the architects
I'm
have
just curious. I'm just out of curiosity.
better answer that question than I am.
It hasn't been dealt with yet. I'm just...
We don't have a staging plan of the presentation.
No, it's not. This is just curiosity more than anything else.
That's usually handled by staff.
I know, but I'm just curious where it's going to go, but because it's one of the questions I'm sure I'm going to get from people later on, but so I wanted to get it asked. One of the things here is what I said earlier, is that I would very much like this to be a restaurant on the ground floor. I like the project, I like the design. We want restaurants. I don't like the concept of going forward with a current plan for a restaurant with the hope that you're going to get somebody. I do not believe you'll get anybody as a restaurant you have to be closed until 6 p.m. I just don't think it's going to happen. Or at least you'll have somebody who will offer it, but it's going to be well below market rent, and the developers don't deserve to have to be paid below market rent at the same time. They're going to go get market rent. So the question becomes how we go about doing this so that we can actually provide you guys the ability to do a restaurant full-time, while at the same time not overstressing our own needs to try and prevent parking problems or traffic. And I think that's part of the discussion that we have to have here tonight, try to figure out how to do that if it's possible. I looked also, secondly, I looked at the traffic plan and all this. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think there will be some traffic issues, but again, I think that's going to be inevitable no matter what we put there, so I don't think they'll be that bad. I think they will be worse than it says the traffic study says, but I'm willing to take that extra little bump there to have the project built. But I'd like to see what we can all talk about tonight about putting a restaurant there, or at least giving the rights to have so, or making something contingent upon that. If there's interest in actually, from the development team, in making sure that there's a restaurant itself.
Parking relief is basically what would be needed for having this be a daytime, lunchtime, as well as evening restaurant.
Well, but I think what I don't think we want to do, and I want to bring up Mike in a minute, but I don't want to have a scenario where we provide you guys essentially relief from the parking requirements, and essentially instead it just becomes a retail store or something else that still closes at 5 p.m. and taking advantage of that same parking restriction.
Well, retail and restaurant
I
have
understand,
different
but
parking
depending on
requirements.
how we phrase it, it makes a big difference, because I think that's the key. But I want to hear other thoughts, and then maybe we can bring Mike up here to tell us what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of number of parking spaces we're talking about, what type of number? Mike? It's 80. I remember it being close to 100 because we've done this before, so.
Good evening. For the record, Mike Miller, town planner. My idea to accomplish what you're looking for is one of two things or a combination of it. If you remember when we approved the Monarch, they wanted to take their little bar type thing and expand it to be open to the public, so we have the parking trust for that, and we got them to buy a few parking spaces. The other, which I think is applicable to a project like this and like your community, our parking code has a formula-based code right now that individually breaks down the uses in a project. For example, X square feet of office at this many square feet, this many, for a restaurant, this much for different types of uses. There is no automatic, it's called internalization, if you will, where Jordan's office is on the top floor and you want to go downstairs and have lunch, at the restaurant. So it's like you're double counting, if you will. There a lot of people give credits when you have a mixed use building, because people walk, they've already parked in the garage, they go to a store on the boulevard, they go to the restaurant type of thing. So our code already has a provision in it that you do what's called a parking reduction study or order. It's very common in other cities. No one has used it yet, but this would be a prime example. So they'd hire a professional engineer, they have a very good one, and he would say, this building is this kind of mix of uses, you want to open for lunch, maybe the whole thing's not open, maybe some of it's open, but on average, the Urban Lands Institute and some other kinds of professionals that study these things say that you would not need as many parking spaces, because again, you have the internalization. So that's the easiest way to do that. It's done all the time in bigger cities, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, where you have these mixed-use type of things. So that's my recommendation.
Do we need to put that, does it have to be, in other words, do we need to put that into our code or something that they're allowed to do that if that's what they choose?
It's in the code. It's in your code right now.
For approval, is what you're saying, not code.
Nobody has used that provision, but we've mentioned it to them. The project that is approved, it has the exact same mix of uses.
Let me ask you, before anything else, let me just ask, Matt, as far as for the development team, is this something they'd be interested, before we go further into this discussion, is this something they'd be interested in doing?
I don't know what the outcome of that study is going to, come. We can't get back into a corner here and have them,
You stated from the beginning that they wanted a restaurant. So my question...
They are proposing a restaurant. They're going to go and test the market, and they've already been looking, and this is where we are today, and we can't, no one knows what's going to happen. What happens when, to your point, that they actually are unable to get even just an evening-only restaurant? There may not be any takers for the daytime and the nighttime restaurant at this location of this size.
But let's be honest, the rent that they're going to be able to get for a restaurant that's only open from 6 p.m. forward versus a retail location of some other sort that is going to be open during the major hours, the rent's going to be higher for the retail. They're going to find someone there. And look, I want them to succeed, and I want the town to succeed. So, when push comes to shove, they're going to go for the higher rent, and I have no problem with that. They deserve that. Any developer, any owner has the right to have that. My only issue is, since we would rather have it for a restaurant, then we're trying to find a happy medium where they get the ultimate, the highest rent possible, but at the same time the town gets the restaurant it wants. So my question comes back to you, is if we're able to determine a mathematical formula here where it's doable, in other words, let's say that the study comes back the right way and everything shows,
Josh,
is that something we want?
Is it appropriate for us to be digging this deep into the use of the lobby and whether it's a full-time? Isn't that isn't that a matter that should be dealt with after this, the site plan is approved. We're discussing the site plan right now.
We're talking about whether we're approving it for it, and they're talking about that coming to us, telling us it's based upon a restaurant. So whether or not we want to put a contingency in there is something to be discussed tonight.
Well, why don't we go with other questions and let them think about that, because...
It's just a question for them first. I mean, if they're not interested in that, then we don't have to look at it. But if it's something they want, then we have to take a look.
Do we know how many parking spaces they would need to get to that daytime operation?
I remember last time we had the conversation, because we've done this 2 times before. It was almost 100.
80.
Yeah, it's almost 100. And the parking trust is what, 20,000? It's 20?
No, but they're saying deduct the
No,
amount they already have to...
I understand the concept, but I'm just saying that last time we did this, you're talking about, a lot of money. So, all right. Any other questions from? I have a few. So you, go ahead.
Yeah, I have some too, actually. The depth of the second level parking basement is, it looks, from what I'm reading, it's subterranean parking basement. How far does that go down, Alex?
Goes down a little bit.
How far? Sorry?
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Minus 15.
15.9, I think it is.
So 16 feet, I guess, below,
16 feet,
Below.
18 feet.
below, like, flood,
Sidewalk.
below the sidewalk.
Yes.
Below grade.
Yes.
Yeah, below grade.
Okay.
Below grade. Are you guys aware of the problems that, like, the Monarch property had going down, I think, just about that many feet? They had a huge dewatering problem. I think they were dewatering that property for 18 months.
Yes, we understand that. We were the architects for that project as well.
Right. So, I just...
No, there are engineering systems that allow us to be able
to do that, like, and to progress at a normal clip?
Yeah, the reason of Monarch was a particular condition, more than a typical case that happens to everybody. So we're like, with the lessons we learned from Monarch, we can do a better job here.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen to us.
It's already been discussed with the engineering for the project.
The other concern I have is that, I think there are too many mechanical spaces. Here there are, I guess, total parking spaces 84. Out of the 84, 78 of them are mechanical spaces. Even the tandem spaces, which are usually, we permit tandem spaces when there's a lack of parking spaces. But here there are tandem spaces with mechanical parking stacked in front of mechanical parking. So in other words, if my car is on top of the inner lane of mechanical spaces, how long would it take me to get my car out if there was a car parked on the bottom and top of each of those other mechanical spaces?
It's all valet
I
operated.
wouldn't want to get my car, because it would probably take 45 minutes to get my car out,
No, it's a couple of minutes. It's really not
Even with the tandem ones?
That's correct.
Yes,
Yep.
you have to move 3 cars to take the farthest car that you have.
Right, but you have to take out...
Encourages them to go to the Bay Harbor so they can walk to work.
Right, you have to take out the bottom car first, then the top car, and then the car on the bottom of the...
I would assume a lot of these people, to interject, a lot of them would be coming to work for the full day, and they would just kind of bury their car for the 8 or 10 hours. These are not like people that are coming and going for now.
That's exactly right. Excuse me, Laura Tauber, 9551 East Bay Harbor Drive. So what it is, and the part of the redesign and part of the stacking is because it's a very high-tech robotic system. It's new. It's not like these ones, like the one downtown that was a nightmare that broke and there were a couple hundred cars stuck. The idea is this is an uber luxurious office building, like nothing that's been done in Miami before. Why? The location. Bay Harbor, Bal Harbor, Surfside, and all the wealth, not just the wealth living here, but the managers that service it, the wealth managers, the institutions that want to be near their clients. These are the people that we're talking to. So yes, if we could get a restaurant that would cater to that clientele and to the neighborhood, it'll be wonderful. We would love it. There is a parking issue, a code issue, for the daytime, which is a good conversation to have because it's an important decision for the city. As far as the parking, the idea with this subterranean parking and the valets, the attendants, is just like you said, people will come to work, they get out of their car at the elevator, they never touch it again. The attendants take the car and they put it in these tandem parking structures that are robotic. It takes seconds, not minutes, to get the cars in and out. They're modular, and we had a demonstration. It's quite ingenious. And in fact, as I said, modular, let's say one of them breaks. It's only about 12 cars. It wouldn't affect the whole system, and it can become mechanical instead of electrical, so they can manually get the cars out if they need to. The idea of putting the cars down there is twofold. One, because it's a nice amenity to a building for somebody that wants to be able to just get out of their car in front of the elevator and go upstairs to their office. And number two, it keeps the cars from queuing on the street, which we were trying to address the comments that we heard in P&Z and from some of the members of the city and neighbors. Nobody wants the cars queuing on the street. This takes them off. They go right down and they get to whichever floor they're assigned to leave their car with the attendant. They go up to their elevator and they're done. Thank you. I hope there's any other questions, please. And as far as the dewatering, we saw what happened at the Monarch. We have already met with 2 separate engineers to assure this won't happen in our project. They had issues, on-site issues, and they had issues with their engineering designs and the way they did it. We're not going to do that. Learn from others' mistakes. If you can, that's the best way.
All right, any other comments, Kelly?
I'm looking at Mr. Miller's report, and I see a lot of ifs in here, like about the valet. And it says, if the commercial complex maintains adequate valet, then there should not be an issue. You know, that's not very reassuring. Do we require that? I mean, what if you change your mind and, you know, decide that you no longer want the valet?
Let me just say one thing on that. In my view on that, I'm not worried about that. I saw that, but I'm not worried because they've got to attract a certain kind of clientele for tenants, and the moment you start taking away their ability to park or take time, you get tenants that start getting angry and you don't have them renew. So that one wasn't a real worry for me.
Yeah, and then my other concern, Mr. Miller, on your last page, number 3, where you talk about the flex building massing, I mean, I think it's an attractive building, and you know, the glass is beautiful, and it has some very nice features to it, and I understand you made the change, and I always think of the Gateway, you know, and I'm speaking in very simple terms, the wedding cake, you know, that it stacks back. And then, you know, it's an attractive building, but maybe at that particular corner, that back massing that's going to be closest to the road, closest to the intersection, it seems to me that kind of juts out a little bit too much into the intersection because, you know, my vision of the Gateway is a little more set back, including that particular structure there. So, Mr. Miller, can you talk to us about this whole issue of flex, because they also did increase since the last design carnation, yes? No?
They're just reoriented. They're using...
Because his report says they're larger and taller than the current design.
Mike?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, I have the old plans here.
Yeah.
The massing before was kind of in the middle of the building, so there was less massing on the water and less massing at the corner, if you will.
Right.
So when they brought this in, we kind of, you know, looked at it and said, well, you know, like you mentioned, you brought more of the massing to the corner. And we brought that up in our staff report for the Planning and Zoning Board, which are primarily architects, and you to know about the way that we noticed the difference here. So it's really a matter of liking it, I guess, or style, if you will. The planning board liked this design better. It took them a couple meetings to work it over and work out some of the detailing and so forth, but they did not mind this revised design. We brought it up as a matter of pointing out the difference of what it was before. And it was it was like a center type of thing, kind of like what the Monarch has. I know it's still in the formative stage, but it's kind of in the middle of the building, was on the original design.
Because it seems like the Monarch, the upper floors above the footprint, really do You know, they set back a lot from Kane Concourse. Is this the same?
Yeah, you can see it stepping back there.
Right, but exclusive of that particular mass, right? So,
Right.
I love that part.
That's better, yeah.
Right, that part is good, and then all of a sudden you have this block of a mass that's sort of,
In the
you know,
front.
yeah, right on the street. And it's not that it's unattractive, you know, let me be very clear. It's just that, you know, it's Bay Harbor, and we have this particular gateway vision.
Correct. And the idea for us was to enhance the gateway vision because originally the massing, as shown this, was here on this corner, on the water side, covering. When you enter the island, you will see this massive.
What if you got rid of that one column altogether and just didn't have it?
It just doesn't work.
That's asking, you know, the artist, you know,
Well,
to
one
paint the
of the
mustache
things
on the
from the
Mona Lisa.
urban standpoint is that whenever we have a urban corner,
Yeah.
we want to create a presence.
Sorry, Barbara,
especially for
can you
the-
say your name for the record?
Barbara Pedersoli from the World Architecture, 2950 Southwest 27th Avenue.
Thank you.
What we want is to create this presence of a building, especially for an office building, to be on a corner and create that framing effect at the end of the street. And it creates that gateway intent. And that allows us to open the views of the entire building towards the water. So it's creating more of a urban context element on the set.
And this glass that you're using, during the day, it will have a mirrored effect, yes?
No.
No? But do you actually see through it? Because it's pretty, it looks like a lovely color, the building is nice, but it's still mass, and it'll still, if you have the curtains closed, or if the sun shines on it a certain way, you know, just because it's glass doesn't mean it's invisible. It's still there, it still casts a shadow.
Correct. But from all the construction elements we can work, is the lightest one of all.
It's the lightest.
Yeah. It creates reflection. It creates transparency. If somebody has their curtains down, that's nothing we can do.
Then it becomes a shiny wall.
No, it's not a shiny wall, but it will create, it will create, like, yes, of course, it will be blocked, the reflectivity, it will be more reflective in that case. But it will be mirrored.
But this is not the mirror glass.
Yeah, this is not, we're not using mirror glass, we're using like transparent.
We're proposing a glass that has the coefficient required for the LEED certification and transmittance that we require.
Well, I was going to ask you a question. Is the building going to be LEED certified?
That's the intention.
That's it. The original intent is to be as clean as possible. We don't know exactly if we're going to be silver, gold.
So you can't say that?
I cannot confirm at this moment what type of LEED certification or equivalent it's going to have. But the intention is to have a building that is energy efficient.
Okay. Well, I have some questions. So,
And are you going to talk about traffic? Because I do have concerns about traffic, but maybe there's a separate presentation. I'd rather, you know, is anybody making a presentation about the traffic plan or mitigation?
Traffic engineer.
For the record, Joaquin Vargas with Traffic Engineering, 8400 North University in Tamarack, Broward County. I was not planning to have a presentation. Specifically, do you have anything in mind that you would like me to address, or just give you a quick overview?
Well, you know, the main concern is that drivers coming from the east
Correct.
cannot make a left turn.
Correct.
So they have to go, you know, we only have 3 north-south roads on the island, so they'll have to go to the terrace in the center. And at that point, they're actually very close to the school. Then they come down 95th Street, you know, so that, it's just by nature problematic until you get used to it.
Correct. The majority of the trips that are coming to this area, we anticipate are coming from the west. We will have vehicles coming from the east, as you described. Obviously, they will have to continue to the west and then go around the block to come to this location. Because of the constraints of the sites, we can only have access on one side of the site. So we have that constraint that we have to interact with. And that is the whole purpose why the entrance to the underground garage was located as south as physically possible.
and leaving the drop-off and pickup where its current location. And our recommendation is to have that only for visitors and for the restaurant, after the peak periods, so that all of the traffic occurs as far south from King Concourse as feasible. And that's what has been done. But we did the data collection. The counts were done in January. We had to adjust those to peak season, based on factors that are published by the state. We then included other developments like the Monarch Hotel. There was another development also that's in the process of being built. We included those trips. We loaded the network. We did the analysis, and that was summarized in the report. And as part of our analysis, one of the changes that was done, as was mentioned, was the valet operation, which, again, due to the constraints of the site, everything has to be accessed from the east side of the parcel. We recommended the drop-off and pickup for the office to occur at the underground garage, so that we do not create conflicts close to the intersection of King Concourse.
Right, because you talk about your peak times as being 7 a.m. to 9 and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. But what about, we have a lot of traffic 2 to 3 o'clock for the school.
Correct.
School traffic.
We have a good database, and the state has a good database in this area. And when we look at, what we do is we look at a 2-hour period in the morning and a 2-hour period in the afternoon. Those are the two highest peaks. You are correct. We do have the school issue. But school coincides with the morning peak, because school starts during the morning rush hour. But in the afternoon, it doesn't coincide with the afternoon peak. Also, studies have shown that the morning traffic for school is much higher than the afternoon. We have aftercare services that occur at the school. That is why all of these counts show that the morning and the typical afternoon are the two periods that are worse. We do that 2-hour window, and we select the 4 highest consecutive 15-minute period. And then we assume that our peak for this development will coincide with that, just to err on the conservative side. And that's what was addressed in this report.
Yeah, but one of the things that, you're right about the traffic peaking, and being heavier in the morning than the afternoon. I'm 100% in agreement. But one of the things you're not factoring in is the queue for the school is on Bay Harbor Terrace. So, let's say you're a parent and you live in Surfside and you drive your child to school. A lot of times what the parents do is they drive, they'll drive down King Concourse and they'll turn on Bay Harbor Terrace. But as you get further into the morning, guess what? The left turn, it gets tough. So, what parents do is they turn right on East Bay Harbor Drive, and then they turn left on 97th Street, and they go 1 block, and then guess what? You just have to drive straight. So, what do you think is going to happen with this building? They're going to do something similar. What they're going to do is they're going to drive, and once they go over the bridge, they're going to turn right on East Bay Harbor Drive, and probably either try to go down Bay Harbor Terrace, or they're going to make a turn, like a legal turn or make a 3-point turn, and go back again down East Bay Harbor Drive going south. Because if they're smart, they're going to say, why am I going to sit in traffic when I can just turn around and just go straight and boom, I'm right there in the valet. So they're coming through the street that you don't anticipate them coming through. Because technically they're heading south on East Bay Harbor Drive.
He's right. I mean, let me add one more thing. If you may. He's right, but let me add one more thing. And when you answer the question on there, I also add one more thing, if you would. How did you come to the conclusion, and I'm just curious the basis for that, most of the people coming in for the building are going to be coming from the west to the east? Because I don't see that, considering this. If this was a low-end office building, I could understand it, but considering the tenants that they're going to be seeking, you're going to have some residents, some people coming in from Bay Harbor, but a lot of them are going to be coming in from Sunny Isles, from Bal Harbor, some from Surfside. And I think those are the people you're going to have coming in.
Let me address the mayor's comment, and I concur with you. There are some challenges for traffic coming from the east. There is no question about that. But again, as I stated, the majority of the trips are going to come from the west, and that will. It's a good segue to answer your question. Miami-Dade County publishes information as what they call cardinal distribution, and they subdivide the county into small little pockets. So one of the things that we do is we look at the location of the site, and identify which they call traffic analysis zone. And this is all based on modeling efforts that the county does. And then they publish those results, and that's what we use to assess, where traffic will be coming from for a particular development based on their location. So we look at that, and we also look at existing counts. The existing traffic patterns give us an idea, what is currently happening. So a combination of the two, then we come up with that information.
I think it's going to be a shift. I understand, but I think it's going to be a shift considering the tenant mix. I'm just, I don't think...
But you said that you believe that most of the tenants are going to be coming between what time, what hour now? What are the hours?
7 to 9 and...
7 to 9?
And 4 to 6.
and leaving
What?
You think that, I don't know, but I've worked in office buildings before. I don't think that the majority are going to get there before 8:30 in the morning. Or 8 o'clock. I don't know, how did you come up with 7 o'clock in the morning?
As I stated before, what we have in traffic is a peak period. We look at a 2-hour morning period and a 2-hour afternoon, 7 to 9 and 4 to 6. For purposes of these analysis, we look at the 4 highest consecutive 15-minute period to see what is the actual peak hour of this area.
So can you tell me from 8 o'clock to 8:30, the school is, so 7:45 to 8:15 is the most heavily trafficked time, because that's when most of the people are coming west and east onto our island to the school. At 8:15, school begins. By 8:20, it's like a balloon, it just goes...
Correct.
So
Correct.
if you did it in increments of 15 minutes, could you give an analysis to us about just that specific time and tell us what the impact of the building is? Because on top of that, did you proportionally figure out the whole building isn't going to come in at that hour, correct?
That is correct, and you have a good point. We assume that the peak for this area will coincide with the peak of the office, which may not be the case. But we have to assume that for purposes of this analysis, and that's based on actual counts that we do out there. So we're looking at your worst hour in the morning, your worst 4 consecutive 15-minute period, and assume that this office building will coincide with that period, which more than likely it will not. But that was taken into account in the analysis.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Because I have a few, so... Any others?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, I got a few. I'm glad that Isaac...
Are they traffic or other?
No,
Okay.
actually, parking and then dealing with the actual project itself. So I'm glad that Isaac mentioned the subterranean parking. So you're telling me that you have reports from engineers that you're not going to have the same issues as the Monarch? Because I had the same concerns, approving a project that, you've seen, the amount of heartache that people have gone through with the Monarch, and I can't blame them because they pretty much almost went bankrupt in the process, but, approving a project that's going to have the same type of parking that no one wants to do, you're telling me that this is never going to happen again. You have some type of engineer that's going to certify, put the license on the line and say, we figured out all the mistakes and it's not going to happen. Because...
Yeah. So one of the main issues I understand from the engineers that the Monarch had was they didn't have enough wells. So we drill these deep water wells. They're very expensive. Developers often, it's a giant number. We've already contemplated putting a lot more. They're, deep. How many feet?
They go down, I think,
100, 75 feet. Down. And they're like, they call them the 100-year or 1,000-year, Michael? Big storm drains, 100-year drains. So that if, God forbid, the big one that's supposed to come every 100 years on average, it can handle that kind of water. And so that was, I understand again from the engineers, the issue that the Monarch had.
Did you ever look at the seawall level? Did you consider changing that at all, or are you leaving it where it is?
Yeah, we're in for permit right now. We're in the process of that, to put a new
bring it up to
seawall.
current.
Yeah.
You're raising it.
Yeah.
But, when you were evaluating that, did you see that, as a mitigation strategy for your next 100 years, or just to bring it up to code,
If everybody will stop using a lot of aerosol, and everybody's going to start being more conscious of the warming going on, you have a very good point. I'm not an expert at this, but we do engage experts to make sure, because it's a big investment to build a building like this, and we certainly don't want to have any water seeping over the seawall. So it's been contemplated. What is the height of the seawall?
It's 5 feet above where it is now.
It's 5 feet higher.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you,
So the kids are going to need longer fishing lines.
Yeah. So let me ask you, so about the LEED certified, because that's something that...
We're going to build to LEED standards. We don't know which level yet, because it has to, we don't start with the construction documents, obviously, until there's an approval.
Yeah, but you go through the process where, with LEED, you go through the process where you retain LEED to go, they actually have to come and during certain phases inspect and whatnot. It's a process you start from the beginning.
Every building that we're doing right now is to LEED standards. Every single one, you're right,
So
it's very important. That's why the energy efficiency, the glass, some of those louvers, the horizontal and vertical.
Because, and this is going to go into my second part, which is about the actual original project, the first and the second, because this is the third. So you would not be adverse to having the building, any type of requirement making the building LEED certified. You're not adverse to that, would you? Because the second, and the reason why is because the second time you guys came before council, the
LEED
pitch was
standard.
that it was going to be a sustainable building. It was going to have, you were going to collect the rainwater. I remember the project pretty well. And I thought it was, a great idea that it was going to be probably the most sustainable building. And, now we have an opportunity to make LEED certified buildings in the town. We have a very good program, and this is potentially could be the first one.
We will build to LEED certified standards or the equivalent.
Well,
It's the same thing.
Let me explain. Even in the city of Miami, the code requires
I know it.
LEED certification or an equivalent. There are several different organizations that can certify.
Have you seen our
a building
code
for
as far as
energy efficiency.
what we require?
Isn't our code equivalent to bronze, or the building code is already equivalent to the bronze level, right?
If you hit it, you actually get benefits where you can actually get a percentage off your building and permitting fees. So there's an incentive. We do Miami Beach requires it. We don't require it, but we offer incentives to entice people to do it. So what I'm asking is, one of the things I'm just telling you before I do it, I'm going to ask that we make that as a condition. So
It's just that there's different agencies that are now the same as LEED that give that certification.
Okay.
So it's just, if it's to, what I was trying to say, without trying to be funny with the words, is it'll be to those standards.
we
Whether it's
offer-
LEED that certifies it or another equivalent agency.
yeah, we write that in there. So I'm just saying
That's
that
fine.
it would
That's
meet
fine.
the
Yes.
town's code. Okay.
Yes.
The next thing, and the real issue that I have is the actual, the completion of the project. Because the first project that came before this council predates me. So I think it was was 07? It was 07, so I wasn't even on the council yet. In fact, actually, Bob Isaac and Stephanie, so 3 out of 7. So the second project came in 2011, so I made it for number 2. And I remember that was the one, Marcus Frankel, I think, designed it, and you talked about the rainwater, well, that was 6 years ago. And when you look at a project and the town gives you 12 months, and then the manager has the ability to give you an additional 6 months, so that's 18 months. Well, it's been 6 years. I think what the town is looking for is a project to be completed. And, and I understand the business aspect of it where, maybe this is not the best time to build, and I understand that thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that we keep on hearing great plans, great projects and whatnot, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the deadline for your current project is up in July. So you guys are hitting the gun where if this isn't approved, you have to complete this project and, start the project, pull the permits and whatnot by July, otherwise you're done. Unless if you ask for another extension. And, one of the things that council did not get was that's not in our packet. In our packet, it shows the traffic plan, it shows the recommendation from Mr. Miller, but what's not in the packet, and this is not your fault, but, something that staff gets is every single time you guys ask for an extension, it goes to the building department. So my question was, how did we ever get to a point where it got to 6 years? So and I know the answer because I asked Mr. Miller and staff, every single time, there's a hurricane, every single time, anything happens, you guys have gotten extension after extension after extension, and it's been 6 years. One of the things that my concern is, if you're going to approve a project, that's great, but I'd like to see the project built. The two issues that I had was the subterranean, because I really didn't want to approve a project that we would make the same mistake twice. And the second is, what's the purpose of approving a project that may never get built? And every time you guys come up here and you say, we're going to do a great building, and it gets approved, where are the buildings? And, I just have a concern. And it's one thing when it's a residential property. If you don't build it, hey, guess what? Maybe we get the TDRs back or whatever. But this is a gateway property. There's a public purpose in having it come before council. If this wasn't a gateway project, you wouldn't even come before us. So it serves the public's interest, and this council has always opined that the gateway properties are special. So it's in the public's interest to build a worthy project. So what are you guys going to do in order to get this project built if the council approves it?
Well, your points are very well made, and I agree with all of them. '07 obviously was not a good year to begin anything except a long vacation.
I'm not blaming you.
Very long, until 11. And then in 11, we came back with that project. And, we tried to tweak it. It seems like to say we tried to tweak it for 6 years. It wasn't 6 years. We realized when we went to market and started talking to tenants that there was really a demand here to the glory of Bay Harbor for much higher end than had been designed. That's what the market feedback was to us. And as beautiful as Marcus's plan was, we went to a whole other level. And the response that we've gotten in the past couple months from tenants, because we have been speaking with them, is great. It's fantastic. There is, to your point earlier about the restaurants that we've spoken with would like to be there lunch and dinner. It just doesn't make sense. And so as developers, we're going to use our best efforts to bring one and, and work with the city and work with you if we can. But the building itself is ready to go. If we get an approval, as soon as we can get some building plans drawn, and that's the architects, we're ready to go.
Right.
Financially and with the pre-leasing.
You're not going to be asking for another extension on this project, correct?
I might be embarrassed to after the mayor's recollection of historic events.
I think that's what George was trying to say to you.
It's not adversarial.
But you're the cut to the chase.
It's not adversarial, but it's what Josh mentioned earlier.
I appreciate it.
It's in everyone's best interest. It's in everyone's best interest. And when I went through from the building department, the record, for all the extensions, it's 240 days, 90 days, 240, it just goes on and on and on,
Look, from a business point of view, and just frankly, we didn't want to lose our approval.
I understand.
And that's the purpose, and we really were trying to make it work. I just think this is so much more beautiful, and it will make such a statement at this entrance. And that was the goal, it's like trying to do something and you feel good about it, you feel good, you're doing your homework or your child's paper or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get to something you say, aha, that's really good and that feels right. And that's how we feel about this building now, and that's the response we've gotten from the market.
Would you be willing to waive your right for extensions at the state level, where your extensions would be limited to what the town normally gives, which is the 12 months and then the additional 6 months, so you'd have 18 months? Could you, that way at
There's
least...
things that can happen, force majeure, and what if there's a geopolitical event that causes an economic crisis? I just, I've been doing this too long to, in theory, yes, but that's almost a legal question, and I think there's two big guys behind me. Well, they're bigger than me. I want to be careful with that, and I'm just responding very, very honestly and openly. Our intention is to build it right away. Our intention is not to drag on for 6 years. It certainly isn't. Barring any of these catastrophic events, we're ready to go. So I don't know, I want to say yes, but I don't know how to word it carefully, that both you and us are protected. I want us both to be protected.
No, I understand it, but that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think in 2011 it was on anyone's mind that the building wasn't going to get done for 6 years and you guys would be coming back 6 years later. I don't think that was on anyone's mind, and I don't think, in fact, you know, it was a surprise to probably the many that those rights were, those weren't rights that I guess normally, or had been allowed in the past as far as the state allowing buildings. I'm not aware of the state allowing buildings to have such extensions previously.
To add to that, if I may, you know, you improved the little structure that's there. So in the years that, you know, you've taken advantage of, you know, all the laws that you're allowed to. But at least we've been looking at that charming little building.
Right.
I would hate for you to tear it down, and then we have, you know, a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Maybe that's a nice compromise.
I understand it could happen, you know, but I think what we're saying is just to try not to, because, you know, listen, you're a big company, you own a lot of land here in Bay Harbor, you have a couple other projects, you know, with the long extensions, and the lots are there, and it's a little hard on the residents, is what we're trying to say. And we went through it with the other side, with the Grand Bay Hotel, right, when it was really a disaster for a long time. And that's what we heard, you know, weekly from residents coming in. When are they going to do something with that, because it kind of stalled?
You know, that's such a beautiful thought, and maybe that's the compromise. We will commit not to tear it down and to maintain it beautifully until before we break ground. And I'm not saying that to buy more time. I just, again, I want to be careful. With
It shouldn't take long to tear that little place down.
No, it won't. That's what I'm saying. It could be a school project. Bay Harbor Elementary, let's go get it. No, but maybe that's a great idea. And we're happy to do that, to leave it pretty and maintain it. And look, if we get approval, the plan is we release the architects, they start their construction documents, that takes 14 weeks, we submit for permit. And then we wait for you. And then when we get permits, we start.
I want the place built. I think we all do. I mean, I think it'll definitely help out. My question to you comes back to my earlier statement. What do we need to do to work with you to make sure it is a restaurant? What do you guys need from us, other than just the parking or anything like that, so that we can consider that? Because that is my number one concern, that we have an open restaurant for the rest of the community.
Certainly daytime, you know, allowing the use in the daytime would help. I mean, that will help, but we've gotten a lot of resistance from restaurants not being able to open in the day. And, you know, we work together and use our best efforts. We would love it. Everybody. We would come here all the time, too, and eat and enjoy it. And it's certainly a beautiful view. And we're trying to get docks back there and really make it just with every amenity we can think of. That would help us attract and we're talking to national restaurants and, you know, brands. Because restaurants, as you know, I mean, the statistic is terrible. I mean, more than 90% of them open and fail within a year. And that we certainly don't want that. That's a risk we're not willing to take.
Josh, maybe Mike could come back next month and have a list of options to consider, instead of trying to figure it out on the spot.
Yeah, that's...
I don't think anybody really thought
No, I understand.
that was coming.
You know, but quite honestly, part of that goes towards, you know, my vote tonight on that. It would seriously be is that I think this is something that really would help out the community to have the restaurant there. Because I also think it'll help you guys lease. I think it'll help improve the quality of the building as well, which helps everybody.
I'm sure we can come up with a few options that everybody would be comfortable looking at, and maybe would help that situation.
And really, you know, we're happy to work with you on that. If we're able to start and get an approval tonight for the building and the floors, I mean, we'll come back and talk about parking and things like that. But we'd like to be able to start with the building. And I think we all agree that, you know, we want to put something like that on the ground floor.
It also depends on it.
So as far as the building plans, you said 3 months. You're planning 12 weeks.
Well,
The architects are going to die on that one.
sweating.
So if you had 6 months, that's good?
For construction, well, we have to go
You can't do that with Durham.
I don't want to put time on myself, but we need to go through the process of design development. This is a schematic design level still. So we need to go through the process of design development, incorporate all the engineers, MEP, structure, and everybody. That's a period of about 2.5 months, 2 to 3 months to get the design completed. And then we go through the construction document phase, which can take 4 months more. So in about 8 months, something like that, we should have a building permit. ready.
Jordan, don't forget, they have to go through the county, and the county fire can really kill you.
If they need an extension, they'll come to you and you will come to us.
Why don't we do that?
Why don't we do that?
To give them a year.
And give them a year,
And that-
give them the amount of time, but if they ask for extensions, instead of you giving them, you will come to council.
Certainly,
So
let me know.
if there's something wrong, is that fair?
Is that fair?
Okay, because, again, the purpose is to get the project.
If we get approved tonight, we say 8 months, we can break ground on the building.
So we're giving you,
Excuse me.
With the approval that it would happen this evening,
Hold on,
or
Matt.
with the attorneys, that you get the 1 year, so that's
1 year.
that's the time frame, and then there is the flexibility for the town manager to
No,
grant.
No, they come
no.
before the council.
no.
So
No.
let's say hypothetically something happens and it's on the county side. It has to come before council, and council will say, the fire department's giving you an issue, that's not your issue, so we understand, we'll give you more time. Now, if it's something that we would decide whether or not we want to give you more time. So if it's something on your end, then you know where you're talking about. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to place a limitation in order to entice you to get it done, but give you enough time to do it properly.
I have a question, though, for council. Are we legally allowed to do that, to treat them differently than any other project? Is it because of the gateway?
The gateway is about the design approval.
If the state grants an extension, what? Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt.
talking about the manager.
Oh, I understand. I didn't cover the other extension. If the state granted an extension, you
Yeah.
can't wait.
No, we're not, we're talking about,
The manager, okay.
we're giving them a year. If they need further extension after the year, instead of it going to the manager.
It would come before council
It would
first.
come to us.
Right. Is that okay?
Can we get clarification?
Where
It's
Frank
it's a
is.
year to submit the building permit, or to?
A year to
Right.
submit.
And then you have to go through the process of getting all the proper approvals, which are both here at the town level as well as external agencies such as Durham and Fire.
Right. Okay.
So it's to, as Barbara was saying, that process to basically submit the building
submit.
permit is roughly 8 or so months.
So we'll
That's
give you
within
12
the year,
months.
that's within the year timeframe that this approval would be the clock would start ticking for that 1 year. And we're
So if you're
telling you
approved,
that
it starts
making the
tomorrow.
best efforts
Yeah.
to actually move forward and be done, be submitted before the year.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you see where we're coming from?
Okay, let's go to public,
Well, and then one thing, the other, I told you LEED certified, so one of the other conditions would be that it would be LEED certified or similar type as pertaining to our ordinance. So in other words, that you guys would be following our town ordinance pertaining to the LEED certified project, but you would also reap the benefit of that. So, because it comes with
Discounts.
a discount. So you would agree to that also?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, public comment. All right, Kathleen Kennedy. Come on down. Good evening.
Good evening. Congratulations to everybody that won. Kathleen Kennedy, 9180 West Bay Harbor Drive. I think this project looks lovely, actually, and maybe a suggestion, a marketing advantage that the office building or the residents should buy into the restaurant like condos do. You have to pay a certain amount to a restaurant. I agree with that, by the way, Joshua, that we should have a restaurant. Well, what about a bar? A nice lounge, like Cafe Chateron. There used to be the best restaurant right there in that location where you are, and I'm telling you, it was an amazing view. So, that concept really, really worked. So, I think you support this project, and throw a bar in there so I can have a martini there, please, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, Ron, can you make sure you do the timer? Because Jason, yeah. All right, next we have Dennis Newhut.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dennis S. Newhut, MD. I own property at 1048 Kane Concourse. As a longtime commercial property owner in Bay Harbor Islands, I have a keen interest in the success of this area. Therefore, I welcome new development that can revitalize our commercial district. Parking is a key element to a successful commercial area. If we don't have adequate parking, retail and other commercial uses, such as restaurants, are not going to locate here. Without adequate and easy-to-access parking, customers will not come, and retail and other commercial users, such as restaurants, are not going to locate here. Quite simply, new development without adequate parking does not help our commercial district. That is why this project concerns me. The parking provided, while permitted with your approval, is a recipe for serious problems. According to the application, the entire building will be serviced by valet parking. While this allows for a smaller garage that accommodates the tandem parking spaces and mechanical parking, it also creates conflicts with delivery trucks who will have no place to park while the circular drive will be used to accommodate up to 4 cars of office visitors who must utilize the valet service at that location. How many valet parking attendants will be at this location to make sure there'll be space on the circular drive for any delivery vehicles? Apparently, there are no self-parking spaces in the garage to accommodate those who prefer to park their own cars. Where will these cars park? The rooftop space creates the opportunity for a semi-permanent venue for parties. This could evolve into a nightclub-style event space. Will a city permit be required for rooftop use, or will it be at the sole discretion of the owner? Perhaps the council could limit rooftop events over 25 persons to a specific number per month, with a specific closing time and regulations regarding setup and takedown of tables, chairs, and other items so as not to disturb residential neighbors. Regarding noise, there should be no amplified music allowed. Lunchtime use of the rooftop should be prohibited because there is no available parking for guests. These concerns can be addressed by placing the following conditions on your approval for the project. 1, require fewer tandem mechanical parking spaces and add self-parking spaces available to visitors and patrons. 2, require the applicant to provide at least 2 delivery truck spaces in the front circular driveway. 3, make it clear there will be a staff valet station at the circular driveway at all times the office or restaurant is open. 4, establish requirements that define the extent to which the rooftop may be used for large events with consideration to this venue's impacts on its neighbor. 5, no lunchtime use of the rooftop facility. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Francis Newhut.
No.
Francis Newhut, 1060 Kane Concourse. Unlike our commercial properties, council did approve for them to allow to go from 65 feet to 75 feet. Also, they had other site plans on this where they had plenty of extensions, state extensions, where our properties expired. Also, they changed the commercial usage to office building. Okay, the due process of the public hearing site plan approvals. The town planner and DRC committee, citizens and/or residents are not allowed to speak. After it goes to the planning and zoning board stating design meets town code and was approved by the DRC committee with allegedly no discussion on subject matter of excessive noise, parking, and traffic congestion. Planning and zoning board. Of the 7 appointed members, only 3 are qualified architects, and only 4 members show up to approve new public hearing development site plans, allegedly instead of a majority vote. On this particular site plan that was approved with only 4 members, and only 2 of the members were qualified architects, was with limited discussion on parking, excessive noise, and traffic congestion. allowing of a 98,000 square foot commercial building, 5,298 plus or minus square feet ground floor restaurant, 745 additional square feet outdoor seating, and 42,302 office use, and unaccounted for parking on the rooftop restaurant, showing 5-stall bathrooms equipped with 200-person event, does not include open to the public, and possible unaccounted for party usage. The required parking appears to be double dipping with 156 required office and 97 restaurant parking spaces. So the total is 253 required parking spaces. The other thing is the restaurant only being open from 6 to 2. Who will be monitoring the time and parking? In the future, will restaurant without a deed possibly operate during the day and allow for the quantity of parking spaces be adjusted? Compatible with surrounding area will need a variance. This is projecting over grade with deck in the back, above grade in setback. There was a hearsay of 2 feet into the neighbor's property, stairwells and setbacks on east and south side, fire trucks cannot get into setback areas, parking garage standards for rear setbacks by the water are questionable. Safeguards mechanical tandem parking, no ordinance protection with 3-tier mechanical lifts. Need to prove you can put that many cars. How does this work for trucks? And where is the plan or deed for the building hours and using valet staff? How is the traffic study promoting the public health, safety, and general welfare of the town? 9 o'clock a.m. work, school, bumper-to-bumper traffic, drop-off, back-up into traffic. What is the traffic flow? Increase new high-rise density in nearby gateways. How is this going to work at lunchtime, and how do we get around the 3-tier stackable cars?
Thank you for your comments. All right, next. John Crow.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and first and foremost, condolences to Robert Yaffe, his family. Wanted to put that on the record. Thoughts and prayers are with him right now. Happy belated holidays, John Corral, 9660 West Bay Harbor Drive. I own a few units down on East Bay Harbor Drive, and let me be sure that I love the project. I think it's great for the neighborhood. The key thing here, I think Dennis brought up a good thing about the parking, but the traffic. I think the data that the traffic expert quoted, everybody has to understand that Bay Harbor is so unique, not just from a budget perspective, from how our demographics are, from the amount of apartments and houses that we have, the amount of waterfront space, canal space, bridges. We are so unique that when someone talks about, that they know Bay Harbor Islands and they talk about the traffic, I really don't think that they get it. We are so different, as I said, from other cities, but if we look at the traffic, how it's changed, not just in the last 10 years, but in the last 5, and how's it going to change the next 1 or 2? Was the church taken into consideration with the traffic studies? I'd like to ask the gentleman, or the 8 buildings that are going to be issued COs in the next year? What about the additional 12 properties that are going to start going up? The left coming over from the beach, I think, is an issue there. We can't make a left. If you try to make a left on Bay Harbor Terrace in the morning, and Stephanie, to your point, that's a choke point that's a drop-off point there. You can only fit 3 cars in that turning lane. And if cars back up on King Concourse, you turn King Concourse into a 1-lane road. And I come both ways, but again, my concern is we all live here. This is our home. We need to understand the traffic a lot better. And even if the school's at 2 or 3, let's round it off to 100 spaces there, and they're moving 10, 15 cars an hour, going down 95th Street there in front of Orlando's Pizza, at the school zone, and then going to the stop sign there where the Cadillac dealership is, and it's going to be a church with I don't know how many new parking spaces. And when the hotel opens up over here, we really need to look at this. And again, I welcome the project. I just want to make sure that we take this intersection, which is critical. I mean, it's the second most, it's our gateway district. And I know that I voiced a lot of concerns for the Monarch. I think we did a good thing bringing the density down there. With the sidewalks and everything, I think we did a good job there. We can't make a mistake here. This is an extremely critical intersection for our community. I agree, I appreciate the council's comments on getting this thing on track and moving it forward. Let's get it built, but let's really understand the parking and the traffic situation there before we approve anything. And again, I appreciate what the Taubers are doing for the town, and I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Next, we have John Vetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.
That traffic study assumes the building's complete in 2017. I got a feeling that's not going to happen. I agree with Mayor Jordan's assessment of people that want to go on the other side, to left side of King Concourse, make a right on East Bay Harbor, and then they come in and they sweep to the right, and then they make a U-turn and go back. And that's already happening quite a bit, and it's going to happen even more with this project. So I think as a quasi-judicial proceeding, you're entitled to take judicial notice of facts that are going on in our neighborhood, and I'd substitute boots on the ground views for any study based on state-based data. I also don't like the idea of underground parking in South Florida, especially near the water. With global warming, I suspect it won't be around for a 50-year recertification. It also seems in this town our default is now lifts, and the planning board seems to approve them if they have valet parking, which adds expense. And I believe in entropy, and eventually people are going to get, the expense is going to go up, they're going to get tired of it, and then what do? The traffic study suggested 2 required valet runners. I've lived at the May, 5875 Collins Avenue, and we had 3, and the cars backed up to the street because there was nowhere to go to put the cars in the garage. Councilmember Reed made a point about the block and sun reflection. There's a newer building in Bell Harbor that as the sun sets, it looks like a temple to Apollo. Great big orange fireball there reflected back. And it's not really pleasant to look at. So as I consider you guys fiduciaries for us citizens to take care of us, I mean, you're our last stop, and I'm counting on you to continue doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, last public comment, we have Victor Maya.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. I have some concerns regarding the discussion of the restaurant and parking. Have you considered the effect and the impact that allowing a restaurant to be open during lunch would have on our existing restaurants on King Concourse and around that area? These are businesses that are currently in existence. Businesses that you all are considering at our next meeting, allowing, parking restrictions to relax so that these businesses could grow and thrive. So you have potentially a population of all these office workers that are going to go out for lunch. If they're not going to go across the street to the New Bell Harbor shops or anyplace else, well, they're going to migrate over to the restaurants on King Concourse and around there. So I think this notion that we need, that the town really needs a lunchtime restaurant and this business, I think it's not really valid. I think it would be nice, but why should we care about the developer's ability to go ahead and how much trouble they're going to have, finding a tenant or not? That's not really our issue. They already have issues. Look at the LA Fitness building. Office space there grade A office space is still for rent, still available. I have questions about the engineers. They've talked about the engineers that are going to, that they've looked at and have studied to deal with the water issues. That LA Fitness parking garage, have you guys gone back there and seen how it works? These stairs to nowhere that are done, the building, the way it was designed and engineered, and changes that needed to be made. Frankly, I don't trust the developer and his engineers when they're telling you, what they've done, when you can look at and see the evidence, in that LA Fitness building. Why we should go out of our way for this developer, I do not understand. They have not done anything for the town, have not donated anything to any cause for this town or its citizens. With respect to traffic, have you all considered how many UPS and FedEx trucks are going to be servicing an office building of this size? Quite a few. So when you look at the whole traffic situation, you need to consider that. I mean, this is a full-blown office building. And so those deliveries are not, just, here and there and all that. This is a constant delivery. Clients are going to be coming to visit these places. They're not just limited to workers and offices. So I think these are all things that should be considered when you're looking at this project overall. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. We have one more, Linda Zilber, former Mayor Linda Zilber. Come on down.
Former Mayor Linda Zilber, that's one hat. The other hat is I've had a design business for over 50 years, Linmore Interiors. And let me tell you, this will be one of the most beautiful buildings we have in Bay Harbor Islands. The design is impeccable. Also, when it comes to delivery, when it comes to traffic, if it's not this building, it will be another one. And I certainly would rather have Mr. Tauber and his family doing this business, because every project that I've investigated of his, they're fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, hearing no other public comment, we're going to close number one. Matt, did you want to do that? Say one last word?
If I may. This is mainly an office building, and it'll have, routine tenants, people coming here on a routine basis, daily. They will understand how it works once they finally, get in there. So it's unlike a complete retail type of establishment that would have people coming who are here for the first time and unfamiliar with it. So it will have a routine set of tenants. It'll have valet operators that will have to make sure to manage that they have the appropriate amount of runners at the peak times to make sure that everybody gets their cars and there aren't any impacts to the street with stacking. So again, a lot of this does become operational, but the Taubers are here. They've told you that they're committed to making this the right type of development and to adhere to those that high caliber for office tenants, and that's going to be how, again, they put in their best efforts to make sure that happens. The project as is, which does have the restaurant on the ground floor, actually has a surplus of 15 parking spaces. If you have that restaurant, again, we've talked about having continuous discussions to possibly make it open during lunch, but right now we meet and exceed the parking requirement. And so with the valet operation, that's not uncommon. These people will come again on a routine basis and will be able to be managed properly. Joaquin Vargas has years of experience as a traffic expert. He's done other studies, multiple studies here in Bay Harbor Islands. So it's not just taking studies from the state and outside. He's actually taken counts multiple times for multiple different projects, and he has that wealth of knowledge to provide here for this type of operation. So I think you can see that this has been well vetted, and also his study does take into account all of the other known and approved projects that have yet to get their COs. Those have to be factored into the traffic analysis.
All right.
All right, to answer any questions, we do agree to those other conditions about the lead.
Yeah, we're going to go over that on
Sure.
number two, so I just want to make it clear when we get the approval. So no other comments, we're going to close public comment. We're going to go to number two. Mr. Manager? Number two?
Approval or denial of the above application for site plan approval of the Gateway property located at 9551 East Bay Harbor.
Okay, so before we have a motion second, just an understanding, we'll go over this. So you agree to that the lead certified will be lead certified or the equivalent as per our town code?
Yes.
You agree to that. Also, in regards to the permits, you'll agree to 12 months. And if there's an issue with where you need additional time, you have to come before the council, and you're not going to, in other words, you're going to waive any other rights you may have otherwise to be able to extend that 12 months without coming before council. So in other words, you're not going to go to the governor's office and ask for another year or whatever. 12 months is 12 months, you come before us, if there's an issue. Correct.
With all due respect, again, to try to be...
I know,
They're committed to making this project work. We can't just completely absolve ourselves and get rid of all of those rights that are available to any other project that you're not having this opportunity. We just want to... I think we can agree to come back if we need more time than the year. But I don't want to totally just completely say no to any other opportunities for an extension. We do agree that if in a year's time we haven't submitted a building permit, we will come back and to the council to explain the situation and come to a...
But wait a second, so you're saying you'll come before us, but yet you're still going to leave yourself the same rights that allowed you to extend it for 6 years?
Okay, let's go back and talk about those for a second.
Okay.
The market went south really badly.
I understand.
And the state of Florida took action to try to help many people, not just these particular people, but to help everyone.
I think Ms. Tauber already explained to us all of that, and she did it eloquently, so we don't need to rehash what the history of how you got to this point. I think what the mayor is asking you is a very simple question that is a yes and no kind of question. Yes or no?
I think that's efforts. You start within 12 months.
No.
Come on.
No, it's a yes
Jeff
or no.
Burkow on behalf of the applicant. Can you please restate what you're asking? Are you asking, you're asking for 12 months to submit the building permit?
Correct.
Full building permit, correct? And then waive any rights to any extension thereafter, even though the rights are in the code?
For the building permit.
There's a 6-month extension that could be granted by the town manager.
Right.
Are you saying we have to waive that?
That if you need an extension, then you come before us again. And I think a year to submit the building, the plans for the building permit, I'm not even saying you have to get the building permit, I'm saying you have to submit, and you're saying that it's going to take you 8 months. I'm giving you a year.
Well, he's not waiving the extension 6 months. He's waiving the fact that the town manager's going to bring it to us.
Right.
It still comes back to you. You still have the ability to get the extension, but just so you're aware, when you go to the town manager's going to say, no, it's going to have to go in front of council.
No, the condition will be if we need an extension, we have to come back to council.
Exactly, rather than town.
Accept that.
Yeah, but my concern is that you will usurp our rights or our power and go directly to the state because you have, and so that's really my concern. I don't want to be ending up in the same position where, here's the thing. We've approved many of your projects before. So I think we have a good relationship where if there's a legitimate issue, I think you will get relief from this council because I don't see any reason why we haven't done it in the past.
Let me confirm.
Yeah, okay. No, this is clear. Crystal clear.
So,
yes.
My client wants clarity. What if there is force majeure, an act of God that somehow has prevented us from getting a hurricane, something else that's happened,
Well,
a
there's
fire?
a hurricane and then there's a Zika. Zika is not, it could be...
No, but I'm not talking about,
if there's something, if we see a good faith, we're going to do it.
Can I put on the record that force majeure or other similar events will be a cause for an extension when we come back here if we're not able to get one at the end, if we're not able to submit a building permit within the year, and we come back at the end of the year and say, we haven't been able to do it, a hurricane.
Right. And that's
fair.
Of any, that caused any
and
delay
that-
of 15 days or greater, or 30 days or greater. So
Yeah.
That's,
I understand what you're saying, because they toll it. I understand exactly what,
If there is some kind of catastrophic
Yeah,
event
of
like
course.
that, we're
Of
not going to be
course.
able to get the engineers and architects.
we're, no, we're not,
That's
we,
bottom line, and we're
right.
going into that season,
Right.
and that's my fear. We want to comply.
You know, when we want
we want it.
We want it. We want it.
We're helping.
Okay, we want it, but we represent the citizens of the town who have been waiting and want this project. And as representatives of the citizens, we are here for them, and we have to represent them and their best interest. And their best interest is that we can't give you another 6 years, and we don't want to give you another 6 years.
We understand, and we think the spirit of this condition is that if we get to the end of the year, we're not going to be asking for a state extension. We're going to be coming back to you.
Right.
And we understand that if force majeure has occurred, you will consider that to
That's
be
cause.
ground for...
Yes, that's cause,
for-
absolutely.
For extension.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's good. That's a good...
With those conditions.
What, do you want to have the other condition of the demolition of the
We agree with
building?
that.
There are a few other conditions. One, I think you're right, the demolition issue has to be a condition.
And you agree to that, as far as you're not going to demolish the building until, you know, you're, okay.
Okay, and then-
Well, you wouldn't have office space. All right, and Josh?
And the other condition, right,
We will not demolish the building until we obtain the building permit.
That's fair. Good job.
and the other condition is, obviously, we're going to try and, I'd like to still continue the conversation about the restaurant, but in the event that there is no restaurant, I would still like that ground floor piece to be retail. I don't want to turn this into a 100% office building. That would be the other condition.
Retail including bank use?
Retail is not classified, banks are not classified as
No, I know, it's a spot for, that's, because that's part of my fear, is that you're going to see, you're going to get a bank that's going to pay, enough that you're going to say, never mind, to a restaurant, and that's part of the issue. I think that's something to figure out.
I just think we're trying to forecast the economics.
It's hard to...
No, I understand that, but that's, look, we're all kind of caught in the same scenario in the sense that we all want what's best for everybody. You guys want what's best, for the building, and we do as well. We just also would like to see something that, is open to the general public. Another bank on King Concourse is not what we're looking for.
But if you look at the site plan, it's not really laid out for effective quality retail to work out there.
Well, if that's the case, that's not laid out for effective restaurant use either.
No, it has great views, that's what you want when
I
you
think
go to a
that's,
restaurant. You
that's
have
what
a
I'm saying,
very
you're making an
nice...
argument. That's why I don't agree with that, because you can do the retail on there, you can still do it with the open lobby.
Look, the Talbers have been at this for years, they have great experience.
And I trust
so
them.
they're telling me that, and I want to pass on to you, that just sticking this and shoehorning retail into here may not work. They are trying, look, they've put a lot of thought into this and also tested the market, and they're looking for tenants, so they have a really good grasp of what the market can bear and what this building and the way it's been designed can handle. And so just making it that they have to put in retail if there is no
We're going
restaurant
to end up with this.
ties their hands and may have a vacant, it may lead for a vacant ground floor for an extended period of time.
When you have high-end tenants up there, there's going to be demand for a bank downstairs. It's obvious, and that's what's going to end up being there, and that's what we're trying to somewhat prevent. But
Can I ask a question? If you had one other level of parking so you could comply, if you did away with one level of AC space, and then you had your restaurant above there, so you could have it open lunch and dinner, and you'd have plenty of parking on site, would that change things? I know you'd lose a little office space, but...
Well, for... Yes, you lose
The economic
rental,
change
it totally makes the project unviable, plus that'll add to have a high parking pedestal that is going to be unappealing, it'll change the design of the whole building, it's really
You see
not...
where we're all going, is that it's hard to squeeze everything you need into this spot. It's almost impossible. It is impossible.
We also have a very limited circulation space within the footprint of the building, so going a ramp down and a ramp up is basically...
It's just too much. It's,
Josh, let me, since I deal with users all the time in the business district, perhaps the better wording would be non-professionals office space on the ground floor. That leaves it open for personal use, that leaves it open for everything other than doctors and lawyers' office.
Yeah.
Or-
Let me ask you a question. Pertaining to the code, Marlene, they have to comply in regards to the valet, because they have the subterranean parking, they have to provide valet. And does the code currently provide that if let's say, for example, they have 2 valets, but they really need 3, we can compel them to do it, because if they're keeping cars like on the street, like is that something that's already, do we have to discuss that now, or is that something that we ought to
You
work on?
probably need to include it as a condition, because that's the way we've handled other,
It was done
like we
previously.
handle it the same with the hotel, that they have to have sufficient valet
Yeah.
so that it doesn't get backed out into the street.
I would ask just respectfully that we can continue the tradition that in regards to gateway properties that do have valet, that the requirement is that you have to maintain adequate, staffing in order to do that. And obviously, if that's a problem, then that's something that's actionable on our
It's in their best interest.
No, I just want to put it in there because,
I agree.
yeah.
They
But other than,
need to keep their clientele happy as well, so.
yeah, okay. All right.
Sure,
And-
sufficient valet parking at all times.
I appreciate it. Okay, so,
Valet runners.
so we have it, can we get a motion?
So hold on, let's,
Okay, is there?
so let's clarify all the conditions,
Oh,
because also,
so we're gonna go over this again.
yeah, let's list all of them so everybody's clear.
Okay, so we got the LEED certified or equivalent, right? We got the building permits within 12 months, and if you need an extension, you'll come before council.
Submission of the permit.
The submission of the permits, and obviously, if there's an act of God or something that is cause, but in return, you will not, exert any other opportunities through the state in order to extend the year process, because you'll be coming before us if there's an issue.
Demolition.
The demolition, you won't be demolishing the current property on site until after the building permits have been issued. And then also adequate valet, and then also
The language that it was
the language
suggested.
Yes, non-professional,
Non-professional.
office use on the ground floor.
on the ground floor.
That pretty much lets you have
We
everything
can
else.
say no bank, but I don't really want to restrict it, they can't.
I understand what- yeah.
That's the problem. I can almost guarantee you it'll be a bank.
Can we just say that the ground floor has to comply with our King Concourse guidelines?
Yeah, but they're not really
No, but we can make that
technically
condition.
on King Concourse.
No, but we can use it as a definition and say that it has to comply.
They're not facing King Concourse.
Technically, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can incorporate it, that it simply is a condition that it must
Comply with the current,
that
okay,
would otherwise be in effect on King Concourse.
that you would be required to comply with the current code pertaining to King Concourse properties.
They could not comply with that because it says 100% of the floor, of the ground floor. So it doesn't apply to them, as such.
Okay.
All right, so then,
So
then forget it.
So what was the language that you suggested?
Just, we don't allow professional uses on King Concourse, doctors, lawyers, specifically in the code, it's
All other offices would be permitted?
non-professional is what it says in the code, so
Bank would
it's up to
You'd
you.
end up being able to put in a bank if need be.
Yeah, if need be.
The bank would be there.
But non-profit,
We're hoping to get a
another
restaurant, but if
doctor's
worst case scenario, if you guys put a bank, you end up putting a bank, which is where I think it's going to end up being there. We just don't want it as a doctor's office, on the first floor.
Can
We're
we,
hoping to
can we
get you guys-
define what
Restaurant.
professional office means?
it's in the code.
It's already
It's in the code. There's a provision in the town code pertaining to what's now excluded on King Concourse.
So no doctor's offices.
No attorneys.
Attorney's
Yeah.
offices on the ground.
On the ground floor. So. So. So, is that,
Okay, it's business and professional office included but not limited to physicians, attorneys, real estate office, medical office, and clinics, and stock commodity brokers. That's what the code says.
okay.
No real estate offices, no
Right.
stockbrokers.
Right.
No stockbrokers, no.
Physicians, no attorneys.
Right. I mean, that's what every other property.
No office use on the ground floor. What other office use is there?
Well,
The bank,
There's all
the bank would,
You could
the
actually-
bank would
Bank's
delete.
not an office use.
Right.
And I won't be long-winded,
Okay.
excuse me. It's an interesting thing. I mean, a gentleman earlier mentioned a project we have across the Causeway, Causeway Square, where LA Fitness is. That's about 180,000 square feet.
Right.
It's 97% leased, by the way. And we have more parking than required by code.
Right.
And we did that in a meaningful and purposeful way. One thing I'll tell you is when we design something, and we've built millions of square feet, you always have an idea of what your tenant mix should be, and you want to be very mindful of that because you want the cross and retail cross shopping. You want it all to be very symbiotic. Sometimes you don't know. I've learned from experience. It's a mistake to say what you can or cannot put in a certain location, and I understand and I agree with your thoughts. But the world is changing so fast that sometimes there's a use that none of us in this room has even thought of that might pop up. And I hate to limit ourselves because we might be hurting all of us at the same time, not just the developer from an economic point of view, but the city with a use that might be prohibited under that code but might really be important to the community. We're going to be very responsible and mindful with the leasing. This is a very, very expensive high-end building. We're not going to put in something there that's going to be low-end or come in and out. The idea is going to be a tenant, and that is an important space. We agree with you. It's very important. You see it, it's front and center.
But we don't want a doctor, we don't want a lawyer. We have that issue, and the reason that we stopped that on St. Catherine's is because we wanted people to be able to walk to retail.
No, and I agree. I don't think, I'm not sure it's a great retail location, and I'm being honest with you. But when you say stock brokerages, that's such an open-ended thing. There are many, many offices now that include that as a part of their business, and we wouldn't want to be in violation of something. Doctors and lawyers, I get, that's fine. And we would agree to that, but if we could leave it a little more open and flexible, we're not going to do something ugly or put a horrible use there. We're not. We're going to put someone there that's going to serve the community and
How about this? As we discussed, but if you come up with something original, something that you feel is going to be tasteful that we agree to, just bring it back to us and we'll approve it. I mean, that's you know,
That's time-consuming, you lose the tenant.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. You do lose the tenants. Sometimes you're competing with tenants for a building like this. We're competing. We're competing with, with Aventura and with downtown Miami because that's the standard to which we're building even higher, luxury office. It doesn't exist anywhere else in this immediate area except really downtown Miami, a couple in Aventura. But this is going to be to a higher standard. We want to be able to get a tenant and make a deal.
No,
And
we
it's
understand.
important to the building.
We just don't want to have the tenant that what we've already legislated that everyone else can't do, that's all.
We're making such an effort to try and change the face of King Concourse, and the last thing we want to do is now say, okay, well, since you guys are not technically on King Concourse, everything we're trying to get off King Concourse ends up in your corner.
Right.
We want your building to be successful. We want this to be fantastic. And I think you're going to find coming back to us pretty quickly. We don't have to, don't forget, this is not a scenario where you're going to have to go 3-4 months in advance to ask for it to come back in front of us. You come back in front of us and you're on the next council meeting, so whether or not we approve it or not. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And if you had an emergency or something like that, and then something had to be done or whatever, I mean, it's not like we couldn't have it a special meeting. It's just that we just don't want to be put in a position where you get this tenant and say, oh my gosh, you guys, did exactly what we weren't implying to do, and no one else is allowed to legally do it. I mean, you just because of the way the property is with the bridge, you technically don't comply with the current ordinance, that's all.
And hopefully it's moot because you get a restaurant.
Right. Well, yeah. And by the way, we're going to come back next month and discuss
We'll
that.
try and help you out with
By the way, that's going to come back next month, so maybe this is all going to be...
The problem is, they're looking at a potential tenant base of people who are buying units or living in units on the ocean side, in Bal Harbor, and in Surfside.
Right.
Very, very expensive.
You just told us everybody's coming from the west now.
Well, their employees are. Those people who live on the ocean, they're getting it at 11 o'clock.
Exactly.
But this is the lobby. We're not talking about the tenants.
No, but I'm talking about one of the potential tenants may in fact want to have a branch of his hedge fund down here. And that hedge fund may do some commodities trading.
But commodity
And
trading,
you would ban that.
No, he can go
Under
on...
that definition,
No, I'm not
they may
banning
do
it.
some equity trading.
He could do it on the second floor.
No, they only have the ground floor. And You say we can come back here, we could miss the envelope to come back.
That's not our responsibility.
You're making it your responsibility by making that a condition.
I will vote against it, and then we won't have that.
And I gotta tell you, you'll vote against it because we're agreeing to no lawyers and no doctors?
No, we're asking you to meet us halfway, and you're telling me that if you were going to have a restaurant and you're really working towards it, and now we're going to come next month and try to work for it, and now you're telling me that you're not, we might have a tenant who wants to be a commodity broker and want the lobby, when I said, well, maybe he can go to the second floor, and you're saying, no.
I'm saying no.
Let me finish, okay? Because you're sending 3 different messages, and everybody's sending a different message, okay? You started off saying that it was a restaurant. Then we said, okay, great. Then we said, we'll work with you with that. Well, next month, we're going to figure out how to work with you to get a restaurant there.
Agreed.
Agreed? Great. Now we're saying to you, you should follow the same code and guidelines as everybody else on King Concourse does. Just because your building is a gateway that faces this way, it's still on King Concourse. It doesn't make you, it's a very special building, but everybody else on King Concourse has to follow the same regulations. Nobody gets anything different. So now you're saying to me, well, it might impede us from being able to get somebody there, but that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to make the best judgment for the community. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
I understand. But what I'm saying, and I understand how the messages got mixed, because we got embroiled in the discussion. I think you heard that, in fact, the Kane Concourse regulations don't apply in the Gateway District. You're now talking about applying them if we hope in the unlikely event that we're not able to get a restaurant. And what we're talking about, we're not saying, hey, we want to go market this ground floor space to a commodities trader. We're not saying that. We're saying in the unlikely event that we can't get a restaurant, we want to know what our backup is.
That's not what you said. And this is what me says. You had me until a few minutes ago. Here's the problem. The fact of the matter is, 1 minute we're being told, and I'm getting a little upset about this, because you're telling us that you're going to make an effort to put a restaurant in there. The plans that are presented to us tonight are with a restaurant in there, and we're trying to do what we can to bring in a restaurant in. And we said, look, worst case scenario, if it's not a restaurant, we're talking to you about retail, and if you can't fit that, come back to us. Now, a moment ago, you just said, we've been having discussions with a private equity group or a hedge fund.
No, I did not say that. I did not say that.
That was how it came out.
I said we could have.
Well, then perfect. They come back to us and we'll talk if we need to. In the meantime, that's the condition that I'm for. Otherwise, I'm not. I have a problem with the way it was termed.
You understand, I'm not the one who brought up office use. You're the one who brought up restrictions on office
I understand.
use.
We're not trying to restrict you. We want to see if we can help you get it, and if you can't, come back to us and we'll work with you. But I don't like the fact of the way it was presented.
Do this.
We're going to agree.
Agree.
Done.
Good.
Agreed, okay?
Good job.
And just, if we have to come back, I hope we don't, we will, and...
Well, we're going to go back next month to talk about the
If it doesn't
restaurant.
work out, I'll work with you. I just want to see an effort.
All right, so I have a
You're not going to open a commodities office, right?
All right, so we have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept with the conditions stated. Do you want to
Yeah, well, we
We already...
I have them. It's on the record.
We have a motion, a second.
Can we clarify just that last one, just to add in the part about non-professional?
You have to comply
You have to comply.
with the obligations that a Kane Concourse business has to have, which
Well, I
is
think the wording...
100% of Kane Concourse frontage is dedicated to non-professional use. And it's dictated according to the code.
Because we don't make the 100%, I think it's better to say, as Marlene was suggesting, right? that-
Marlene's language is they have an open office.
That the ground floor, right, would
Right.
be
Yeah,
limited to non-professional office uses unless otherwise approved by the town council.
Oh, that's otherwise
And if there's a problem, come back to us.
We come before.
I just want to see an effort on that.
But I
So
think
we
we have
have
that language in there.
We have a motion, a second. It doesn't need to be full voted. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone against?
I'm sorry, I can't. It's just too many unknowns, especially that parking.
Okay, so we
Too
have...
much.
Okay, so it passes. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A
Thank you
second?
all very much.
All right, we're adjourned at 8:42. Need a few more minutes for the regular public meeting. Now we can start the meeting, yeah.